Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Bebop here, and today's video we're going to be going over the different classes that are going to come out in the beta, and also for October 15th when New World Aeternum fully comes out. You're going to have 7 different classes to choose from. You can choose the Soldier, which is SnS, which is Sword and Shield, and Hatchet. Then you're going to have the Destroyer, which is Great Axe and Warhammer, which is like a brute build. Then you're going to have Ranger, which is Spear and Bow. You're going to have Musketeer, which is Musket Rapier. You're going to have Occultist, which is Fire Staff and IG, which is Ice Gauntlet. Sorry about that. Mystic, you're going to have Life Staff and Void Gauntlet. Sword Bearer is the last class. You're going to have Great Sword and Blunderbuss. Now, each day I'm going to be coming out a video going in depth over, these different class setups and what you want to do. I'm also going to be showing you the differences in tier of clothing. So you got gray items, you got green items, you got blue items, you have purple items, and you have gold items, and each one are going to be stacking perks. And I'll go over each class and what you want to spec in. If you're looking at doing it from a beginning level, I bought all these low level clothes so I can show you how they basically come, which is, they start off with gray doesn't have any attribute points, and then green's going to have some attribute points, and then by the end you can actually get some, perks on your clothing that, can help you do a little bit more damage. Let's look at these blue ones real quick. Fire harnessing, health, empower breaker. So you have clothing perks that are going to come on there. Same thing with the weapons. You'll get more perks on the weapons once you get higher tier and you start earning more rank. So today we're going to go over the Sword and Shield and Hatchet, which is a soldier build. Now, I have all these clothes basically throughout, but what the difference is, I'm still in a light equip load. So you have a light equip load, a medium, and a heavy. Once you cross over the 13 mark here, you're going to go into medium, and you're going to be doing 10% less damage. But then again, your resistances are going to be up. Then if you go to 23, you're going to be, doing, I think it was like 20% less damage, even more. So you're going to be way more protected, but you're going to be heavy and you're going to be slow. When you're in light, you can roll dodge. When you're in medium, you kind of do a little hop step. And when you're in heavy, you barely move when you dodge. But I mean, it's good enough. You're going to have your common your common health potions down here. You're going to have your common regeneration potions down here and your light mills. But going back to the clothing here before I get sidetracked, on the SnS build, the shield does weigh into the overall weight. So if I take that off, you see how it drops? Well, you have to have all light clothes for this to work. If you go anything medium, you're going to be in medium. If you put on a heavy piece, you're still going to be a medium, but you're going to be working your way up to heavy. So you got to be all light, round shield, and your perks on the round shield will apply to your weapon, your sword. So if you have shield aggression, I'm going to get 1.5% base damage increase. If it had vicious, then my sword would end up having vicious on it, along with the shirking frost perk. And there's perks that are really good and perks that are really bad. Who knows what new perks are coming out? I'll kind of go over what we know at this point later on in another video about weapon perks, clothing perks, what's best combos. The Hatchet, both of these, what's good about this build is both of these are going to scale with strength first and then dex. So you're going to put most of your points in strength and then dex. You're going to have some in con, I'm sure, until you learn the game. So you will also have an amulet, which is a necklace, and that's going to give you, different stats. You can have constitution, focus, strength, whatever. Constitution's really good to start off with when you're ranking up because it can apply to every build, because a lot of people are going to have some constitution when they're ranking up. So that would be the best ones to find and keep if you can, because if you get a focus one, it doesn't apply to this build really at all. Now the dots can come into play later, but not going to really get into all that. This is the ring. It comes with, or this one came with leeching, which is get your health back. So they're going to come with different perks. Try to find one that's, at first ranking up, you're probably just going to take the highest tier. But if you can find one that stays with your stats of your build, you'll do more damage and be better off. And then I put this gold one here to show when you get to gold, you start getting more perks, but don't pay attention to the gear score or whatnot. But this is the earring. You're also going to have different perks that are going to be on these. So each one of these jewelry pieces have different perks that are going to be able to be on it. So they basically do different things, if that makes sense. So let's go over the skill tree. Well, let's go over attributes first, since we pulled that up. So sword and shield, if you look up here, the sword and shield damage scales with strength and then dex. So strength is mentioned first, so that means it scales more with strength than dex, and then dex would be secondary. Same thing with the hatchet. Scales with strength first, then dex. So you're going to want to put your points into strength first and then follow up with some dex, you know. And then you can have whatever constitution. I say never go above 50 constitution when you're starting out, you know, just so you get used to the game and the mechanics. You might die some getting used to it, but it'll set you up better in the long run. And just put more points into damage. Constitution is not your friend. Don't think of it that way, okay? You'll learn the game a lot better when lower con, because you're going to learn mechanics and moves. You're going to pay attention a lot more. If I buff up my con, I can take a lot of hits. I'm not really going to learn the mechanics, and it's going to prevent you from growing faster. So there are certain dots, let's say like intelligence. These are maybe subject to change when the new version comes out. 5% increased damage to backstabs and random critical hits. So that could also increase your damage for the sword and shield, even though you're speccing into intelligence. That's a pretty good dot to have. At ranking up, I don't think it's that important, because most of the enemies are going to be front facing you. The random critical hits could come into play, but I wouldn't waste it. I would just stick with strength and dex. Some people might want to do the 25 into focus for the 5% ability reduction. I wouldn't mess with it. Just go strength and dex and con. Weapon mastery, sword and shield. Now, there's many different ways you can do this here. I prefer, always when I was starting off, I would take the shield rush, but really, since things has changed and now they add whirling blade with rend that it will add, I would always say you could start off with this area right here. Now, this dot, even though it's not an ability, is so important because your successful heavy attacks grants you 30% in power for 5 seconds, and that's just repeatable. So you're also always going to have in power, which is going to make you do extra damage to enemies. It's going to make you stronger. Then I would select whirling blade, and then this dot right here, which applies 15% rend for 10 seconds, which is huge. Rend makes the enemy basically weaker to your damage, so you're going to be doing more damage to the enemy, and that's always really good to have. This does a quick 2-spin around. Show you real quick. Go to sword and shield. Does a spin around like that, and will any enemy that's in the area, it'll rend them. So it's really good if a mob's approaching you, or if you want to gather up a bunch of enemies, you can do the whirling blade, easily hit them. It's really good to apply the rend to all of them. And then if you're looking for ability next, the reverse stab is going to be done away with, so who knows what's going to be in place of this, so it's subject to change. I would go leaping strike, because what it can do is also stagger the enemies. So let's say you're coming up on an enemy and you hard hit them, you get your empowerment, you can then sword leap on them and then do the whirling blade. That sword leap is going to stagger the enemies and knock them off their balance, so they're not going to be able to hit you. Or if they're about to do a big attack, as long as they don't have grit, then you're going to be able to knock them off of their attack. So it's really good to have this plus movement. If you're up high, you can really fly far forward until you get your mount at 25. Super, super good. Now, like I said, we don't know what this ability will be, but this is also really good. Sword and shield, critical strike chance, 10% increase. Majority of people are going to want to go with an ability, so I would say if you're going to do that, shield rush is really good to have. If you do go with shield rush, I would probably say to get the most benefit, you go ahead and click the reduce damage from all magic types by 10%, because if you click this one, the weakening that I'm about to go to is not able to select. So you got to select this one and then go to weakening. Now, the shield rush will do 20% weakening to all enemies for 10 seconds, and that's including any enemies around 5 meters from you. So a whole group of enemies are approaching after you gather them. You can shield rush them, weaken them all, and then you can, whirling blade and all that stuff. So you're basically going to be taking less damage and doing more damage with that, with the whirling blade and the empowerment from the heavy attack. So that's a really good way to start off there. Then you can kind of mess around with things. If you want to get the cooldowns faster on the whirling blade for each enemy hit by 5%, you can click this. Then I would click this for the extra sword and shield critical strike chance, which is really good. For ranking up, if you want to select this dot, it's really good. It adds 15% more rend for 2 seconds. And usually after my third light attack, I'm going to leaping strike to get the best benefit out of it. So I'll show you basically the combo that I would want you to go with when we get done setting all these dots up. This right here, your third attack in the light attack chain deals 15% more damage and causes more threat. I mean, you're going to be ranking up, so you're going to have all the threat you want. So don't worry about that. This dot right here, all incoming healing and regeneration is increased by 10%. That's a really good dot to have. You could even select this one. Grants additional 15% armor. Then you can come over here while health is full, deal to 15% more damage. You can also do 10% more damage to slowed foes, which if you're going to select this dot, I would probably go ahead and select this one down on the shield rush. Now, this is going to apply 5 meters. Any enemies within 5 meters are going to be slowed by 30% for 4 seconds. So that's going to be good. That's going to make you do 10% more damage to slowed folks. Then you can select basically these two right here. So this one is going to, if you hit a foe below 30% health, deal 50% more damage. Yeah, on a successful hit, inflict 30% slow for 3 seconds. And you always want to go with this leadership passive. This is really good. While holding the sword, damage of all group members increased. Damage of all group members are increased by 10%. So that's really good to have also. That's what I would do right there. You can put them in any order. I usually go this here, this there, and that there. Now you could always start off with the heavy for the empowerment. You could go straight into leaping strike, whirling blade, shield rush if you want, and then just start tapping away. That way they're rended up, they're weakened, and you're free to go ahead and start smashing. And you're gonna be doing also damage to slowed folks, so that all those skills pretty much complement each other. So that's what I would go with on the sword and shield as you're ranking it up. On the hatchet, really good. The hatchet's actually really good for ranking up. It's not as good as it used to be because it used to be insane with the health regen that you would get from Berserk, but I would definitely start off going these two. You want to have Berserk, so that increases damage 20% for 12 seconds, which is huge. Also right here, while Berserk is active, your movement speed is increased by 20%. It's going to help you get around the map a little bit quicker. I would go Raging Torrent. So that way you do 3 quick attacks with the hatchet. So Berserk, and that just sounds so dope. And then you could swing away right there. It does like a 4-hit swing. And when you're Berserked, you see your character's all lit up with that blue fire-ish looking stuff. I got all my graphics on low, so it's not going to show it. If you put away your weapon, or if you go into menu, that Berserk will go away, so be careful of that. You'll then be waiting on the cooldown. And then after that, I would always select this, and that's going to get rid of your block. And so now instead of blocking, you can just throw a hatchet. So if there's a ranged animal or something you want to hit, or if there's an enemy you want to hit, you can just sit there and range them right to you. So that's a really good ability to have. Then after that, man, it's tricky. If you're going to be doing PvP, social distancing is really good because that's going to throw your character back about 7 or 8 feet. And that's going to give you some separation from the enemy. If you're not going to be doing PvP, I would probably recommend going a rending throw. And rending throw is going to basically throw a hatchet 25 meters, dealing 110% weapon damage and applying rend, reducing target's armor by 20% for 10 seconds, which is huge. Rend duration increased by 4 seconds if the target is further than 6 meters away. Rending throw hits a target with an active debuff. It deals 20% additional damage, which is really good. Throwing hatchets that hit target with an active debuff reduces all ability cooldowns. And then I would go back to Berserk right here to get your life steal. Remove all stuns and slows. While Berserk is active, your attacks are uninterruptible and you cannot be staggered. Then I would remove all bleed, burn, poison effects from yourself. If you hit enemy while your health is below 30%. Well, there's other ones you can go with here. This dot right here, I can't believe I actually forgot about this dot. This is one of the most important dots right here. Abilities and heavy attacks deal 20% more damage to targets below 30% health. You don't ever want a heavy attack with the Hatchet, so don't worry about that one. All cooldowns are reduced by 2% when hitting enemy with an attack while your health is below 30%. That's pretty good. After 3 successful light attacks or aim throws against the same target, gain empower, granting 20% damage increase for 3 seconds. Definitely would take that along with the Berserk. That's going to be, what, 40% empower. So that's going to be huge. Increase damage by 10% for every enemy within 5 meters. And you can vary which order you pick these. Then after that, if you want, you could, after hitting a target with Raging Torrent, grants you haste, increasing movement speed by 20% for 6 seconds. And then right here, press basic attack at the end of Raging Torrent to perform a final attack that deals 120. Ugh, my God, I can't talk today. 120% weapon damage. And then this is very important. Defy death. When you receive lethal damage, avoid death and become invulnerable for half a second. Restore 500 health and 50% of your base health upon activation. 60-second cooldown. So that's really good to have. And these other dots, every third thrown hatchet is a guaranteed critical hit. You could pick that one if you want. I would definitely pick this one. You deal 10% more damage to targets with active debuff. And dodging within 2 seconds of hitting a target with an ability consumes 25% less damage. That's always good to have. Increased critical hit chance of all melee attacks. Increased critical chance at range attacks. This is definitely the one to go with, and I would just spec it out like that starting off. If you want to get the cooldown on the rending throw, you could, you know, come down here and replace one of the other dots, but I don't find it necessary while ranking up. And that's basically it. So you go Berserk, you can go rending throw, you can go Raging Torrent, and just start swinging away and doing a lot of damage. And you're going to be faster, you know, while you have Berserk going. You're going to be really fast. I know that really didn't show much right there, but I tried, bro. That's what matters. So this is the soldier class. Obviously, you're going to get some goofy looking gear like this at the very beginning, but there also is transmog in the game, so you can change your skin. And I'll always go to the classic Bebop skin, which is an original tanking skin that I used to go with all the time back in the day. And since I have a lady character on this account, it's got a slight pinkish tint to it. So yeah, you're able to transmog stuff later on and dye the colors however you want. So that explains the soldier, and stay tuned for more builds coming, and I'll see y'all soon in the next video. Later.